Hi Reddit. I'm Nate, I'm 26, and I honestly wish this story wasn't real. But it is. And I need to get out of my head before it eats me alive. This is about me, my girlfriend, and something that happened that completely wrecked the way I see her and myself. And maybe, just maybe, you'll understand why I feel the way I do. Or maybe you'll hate me for it. I don't know. Either way, here it is. Let me start with her. Let's call her Maddie. We've been together for almost 2 years now. She's beautiful. Like, the kind of beautiful that makes people stop mid-sentence when she walks in. But it's not just her face. It's the way she presents herself. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. She dresses loud. Tight tops, short skirts, heels that scream, "Look at me." I never told her how to dress. I'm not that guy. But yeah, I had concerns. Especially when we were going out at night. I'd ask her, maybe throw a jacket on. Or, "You sure you want to wear that downtown?" I wasn't trying to control her. I was trying to protect her. But she always brushed it off. "You're being jealous," she'd say. "It's just clothes, Nate." And maybe she was right. Maybe I was overthinking it. But the look she'd get from guys on the street, the way they'd stare and whisper, it pissed me off. Not just because of them, but because she acted like it was nothing. And then it happened. It was a Saturday night. Maddie went out with one of her friends to a club a few blocks from our apartment. She came into the bedroom earlier that evening, wearing a skin-tight top that dipped way too low, paired with a skirt that honestly could have passed for a belt. I didn't say anything this time. I just looked at her and nodded. She smiled and said, "See, you're finally relaxing." But I wasn't. I just gave up arguing. She left around 9, so they'd be back by midnight. At 12:30 a.m., I heard the front door slam. At first, I thought she just had too much to drink, stumbling around like she always did after a night out. But then I heard her fall. Hard. I rushed to the hallway and saw her lying halfway inside the apartment, breathing heavy, her knees scraped, heels gone, makeup smeared. My first thought, she must have gotten into a fight, or maybe she passed out somewhere and got dragged home. I helped her up. She didn't speak, just wrapped her arms around me like she was trying not to fall apart completely. And then I knew something was wrong, really wrong. She sat on the edge of the bed, shaking. Her phone was missing. Her clutch was torn. Her voice came out in pieces, like it physically hurt to speak. I didn't make it home alone," she whispered. I stood there frozen. I couldn't understand what she meant, until she said the word "no guy ever wants to hear from the woman he loves." I won't write that word here. You know what I mean. It happened just down the street. Literally, around the corner from our home. Some guy followed her when her friend left early. She didn't see him coming until it was too late. And the sick part? The first thing that hit me wasn't sympathy. It was rage. And then shame. Because deep down, I couldn't stop thinking, "I warned you." I didn't say it out loud. I just stood there, watching her fall apart, while a voice in my head screamed, "Why didn't you just listen?" And that's when it started. The split in my brain. One part wanted to hold her, protect her, help her heal. The other part, it blamed her. And trust me, Reddit, I hate that part. But I couldn't silence it. And that's just the beginning. Before everything went to hell, if you asked anyone who knew us, they'd say Maddie and I were solid. From the outside, we looked like one of those couples that had it figured out. Good chemistry. Always laughing, always together. What people didn't see was the slow tension building under the surface. Maddie loved attention. I don't mean that in a petty or insecure way. It's just how she was. She loved compliments, double takes, random dudes walking past and saying, "Damn, girl." She'd laugh it off, throw a "thank you" over her shoulder, and keep walking like it was no big deal. To her, that stuff was harmless. But to me, it was a slow burn. We couldn't go out without someone trying to talk to her. Not just in passing. Full on trying to flirt with her while I stood right there. Guys would wait until I stepped away to the bathroom, and then slide in next to her at the bar. Some even tried that pathetic, "I thought she was single" move. There was one time we were at this rooftop party, and she wore this red dress that barely clung to her. She looked like a model. I'm not gonna lie, she turned heads. But the moment I went to grab us drinks, this guy cornered her. I watched him try to lead her away, whispering in her ear, hand on her back. She was laughing, clearly entertained. When I walked up, he gave me this smug look like, "What's up, bro?" I almost swung on him. But Maddie? She just pulled me aside later and said, "Relax." He was drunk. I handled it. This kept happening. Clubs, bars, even the grocery store once. She didn't cheat. I'll say that up front. Not once did I ever catch her texting someone behind my back or sneaking off with anyone. But she soaked up that energy. She fed on it. When I brought it up, she'd roll her eyes. You're insecure. You're overreacting. They're just compliments. I can't control what people say. I'd ask her, why do you need it? And she'd say, I don't need it. I just don't see the harm. But there was harm. Because every time she laughed at some random dude's pickup line, every time she wore something that screamed, come talk to me, in places where it just wasn't safe, it chipped away at something inside me. I wasn't mad because she was confident. I was mad because I felt invisible standing next to her, while other guys looked at her like she was a prize to be won, and I was just the guy holding her purse. And here's the thing, Reddit. I told her. I warned her more than once. I said, babe, one day, someone's not going to take no for an answer. She laughed. She laughed. You sound like my dad, she'd say. So dramatic. That's what broke me. Because after what happened, after I found her that night, broken, shaking, clutching my arm like it was the only thing keeping her upright, I couldn't stop hearing her laugh in my head. I kept thinking about every night she left the house in heels and a top with half her chest exposed, ignoring my worry, brushing it off like I was just trying to control her. And now here we were. I wasn't angry that she got hurt. Don't twist that. I was angry that I saw it coming. That I knew this world isn't as safe as she thought, and she didn't take me seriously until it was too late. I wanted to be the guy who held her through it, who stayed strong. But instead, I was just numb. Every time I looked at her, I didn't see my girlfriend. I saw the warning signs I ignored. The outfit, the bar, the guys, the way she let herself be seen. I hated that I felt that way, but I couldn't lie to myself. Even when she curled into me at night, asking for comfort, I'd freeze up. My hands wouldn't move. My arms wouldn't wrap around her. And she noticed. You're different, she whispered one night. I didn't respond, because the truth was, I was. It happened on a Friday night. I'll never forget the sound the door made when it slammed shut. That heavy, uneven slam like someone was leaning on it, barely able to stand. I was sitting on the couch. TV was on, muted. Just background noise. Maddie had gone out with her friend Sasha to some new rooftop club near downtown. Same story. Same look. Same fight we didn't have this time, because I was just tired of hearing myself talk. She left the house in a tight black dress that looked more like a long tank top. Hair curled, heels tall, lips red. I remember thinking, she looks incredible, and I hate that I'm nervous again. But I didn't say anything. I just kissed her cheek and said, be careful. When I heard the door slam, I looked at the clock. 1:47 a.m. I figured she probably got too drunk. Sasha must have ditched her again, and she Ubered home by herself. I even rolled my eyes and got up to help her to the bathroom before she threw up on the floor. But what I saw when I got to the hallway wasn't what I expected. Maddie was on the floor, half in the apartment, half out. One of her heels was gone. Her legs were scraped. Her dress was ripped at the side. Hair messy. Makeup streaked down her face. At first, I still thought, drunk. Maybe she fell outside. I bent down. Mads? You good? She looked up, and I swear to God, I didn't recognize her. Eyes wide. Frozen. Face pale. No sound. Just shaking. Maddie, I said again, louder now. What the hell happened? She tried to talk, but nothing came out. She just started crying. Silent. Shaking. Ugly crying. Not like sadness. Like her body didn't know what else to do. I carried her to the couch. She clung to me like I was the last thing left holding her together. I asked again and again, what happened? Talk to me. She finally whispered it. He followed me. I didn't understand. Who? She shook her head. Some guy. I don't know. He was outside the club. I thought I lost him. My throat tightened. What did he do? She didn't answer. She just looked at me. Eyes full of something I can't even describe. Shame, fear, disbelief. And I knew. I knew without her saying it. And my first reaction wasn't what it should have been. I was angry. I want to punch something. Someone. Scream. Flip furniture. Go outside and find whoever did it. But most of all, I wanted to shout, I told you. I told her to stop going out like that. I told her to be careful. I told her the way she dressed made her a target when she walked home alone at night. But none of that mattered now. Because what happened had already happened. And she was broken. She laid there in silence while I locked the door, closed the blinds, and turned off the lights. She didn't even want to go to the bedroom. She just curled up on the couch, knees to her chest, shaking. I grabbed a blanket and covered her up. We didn't sleep. She wouldn't let go of my hand. I sat there all night just staring at the floor, trying to process what the hell I was supposed to do. Comfort her. Call someone. Call the cops. I didn't even know what kind of help to give. And honestly, I didn't feel like I deserved to help. Because in my head, that voice came back again. You knew something like this would happen. I hated that part of me. I hated that it was even there, whispering that maybe if she had just listened, things would have been different. But I never said it. Not that night. I just held her hand until the sun started to come up, while her mascara dried on her cheeks, and the guilt started chewing into both of us. And I wish I could say that was the worst part. But it wasn't. The next morning felt unreal. Like we had both just stepped out of a bad movie and didn't know what to do next. Maddie hadn't slept. Her eyes were hollow, red, empty. She was still on the couch, wrapped in the same blanket. I brought her tea. She didn't drink it, just held the cup with both hands like it was the only solid thing in her world. I stood in the hallway, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do. My brain was stuck between rage and panic. But eventually, I pulled myself together. We need to go to the hospital, I said. She didn't answer. Mads. I crouched in front of her. You have to see a doctor. You need to get checked. She shook her head slowly. I don't want to talk to anyone. I know, I said. But we have to. Just to make sure you're okay. Please. It took another hour to get her out of the apartment. She wouldn't change clothes. Wouldn't brush her hair. Just threw on my hoodie and a pair of sweats. Didn't even look in the mirror. I drove us to the hospital in total silence. At the ER, I told the nurse what happened. She nodded like she'd seen it too many times. Asked us to wait in a side room. Within minutes, a specialist came in. A woman. Kind eyes. Firm voice. I'm here to help, she said. We'll take things at your pace. I stepped out while they examined her. It felt like hours. I sat in a hallway chair, hands shaking, scrolling through my phone without seeing anything. I wanted to throw it. Smash it. Yell at someone. Anyone. The doctor finally came out. She said there were no serious internal injuries. No signs of long-term damage physically. She's in shock, she said. But she's lucky. I didn't feel like we were lucky. They handed Maddie a folder of resources, emergency contacts, trauma counseling info. She didn't even look at it. Just clutched it to her chest like a shield. In the car, she didn't say a word. When we got home, she went straight to the bedroom and closed the door. I sat in the kitchen, staring at the wall, running the same scene over and over in my head. Her walking in. Her collapsing. Her voice. That broken voice. And then something snapped. I got up, grabbed my laptop, and filed a report. I wrote down everything she told me. The club name. The street corner. Her description of the guy. Everything. I hit submit and felt this rush, like maybe I could still do something useful. I called into work and said I wouldn't be coming in for a few days. No explanation. Didn't care. For the rest of that day, Maddie barely moved. She stayed in bed, curled up like she was trying to disappear. Sometimes I heard her crying. Other times, nothing. I brought her food. She didn't touch it. Water, barely sipped. That night, I messaged her mom. I didn't know what else to do. Maddie wasn't talking. She wouldn't even let me sit next to her without flinching. Her mom came over the next morning. She didn't ask questions. Just walked straight to Maddie's room, sat on the bed, and pulled her into a hug. I heard them talking through the door. Soft voices. Crying. Long pauses. For hours. When they came out, Maddie's face looked calmer. Still broken, but not as empty. Her mom gave me a look. One of those silent, exhausted mom looks that says thank you for doing what you could. That day felt like the first breath after drowning. But deep down, something in me was shifting. I didn't say it out loud. Not yet. But I could feel it. Every time I looked at her, I didn't see the same person. And that scared me more than anything. The police opened an investigation the same week. An officer called to follow up on the report I'd filed. They asked Maddie to come in for a statement. She couldn't. Not yet. She just shook her head and said, I can't go back to that place. I can't talk about it. So I asked for time. They gave it. Meanwhile, Maddie stayed in her room most days. Barely touched her phone. Didn't check social media. Didn't respond to friends. The girl who used to laugh out loud at memes and post mirror selfies every weekend now couldn't stand to look at herself. And as much as I wanted to help, I wasn't the right person anymore. Every time I tried to get close, physically or emotionally, she flinched. Not dramatically, but enough. She'd turn away. She'd hug her knees. She'd ask if I could give her just a little space. At first, I told myself it was temporary. Just trauma. She needed time. But it wasn't just her. It was me too. Because I started pulling away before she ever asked. Not on purpose. Not with malice. But because something in me had changed the night I found her on the floor. Something I still didn't know how to name. I couldn't touch her. Not like before. Not without hesitation. And she noticed. One night, she came into the living room and sat next to me on the couch. Just sat. Close. No words. I felt my chest tighten. She slowly reached for my hand. Held it. And then she turned her head and kissed me on the cheek. I didn't move. She looked at me, confused. Hurt. You don't want to kiss me? I didn't answer. She stared for a moment, then whispered. Do I disgust you now? No. I said too fast. That's not it. Then what is it? She asked, voice cracking. Why won't you even look at me the same way? I froze. Because I didn't have the right words. And even if I did, none of them were kind. She stood up and walked to the bedroom without another word. That night, I didn't sleep. I thought about calling someone. A therapist. A friend. Her mom. But I didn't want to explain what I was feeling. Because what kind of man says something like that? What kind of man can't even hold the woman he loves after she's been through hell? And that's when I knew I couldn't handle this alone. So the next morning, I found a trauma therapist online and booked an appointment. Not for her, for me. Because I had to fix this. Or at least try. But before I could even make it to that first session, things got worse. Maddie stopped eating. I didn't notice at first. Thought she was just being picky. She'd push food around her plate. Say, I'll eat later. But later never came. I started finding full bowls of soup in the fridge the next day. Untouched. Plates of food dumped in the trash with one bite missing. I brought it up one night. Mads, you need to eat something. I'm fine, she mumbled. You haven't had more than a piece of toast in 3 days. She didn't answer. The next morning, her mom showed up at my door. No text. No warning. Just standing there with a tired face and shaking hands. She's not okay, she said. She told me everything. I didn't even ask what that meant. I already knew. You need to talk to her, her mom said. And you need to stop treating her like she's contaminated. She's not broken. She's your girlfriend. And she needs you. I stood there in silence. I couldn't explain it to her. I couldn't say the thoughts that ran through my head every time I looked at Maddie. Thoughts I hated myself for. Her mom didn't wait for a response. She just left. That night, I sat outside on the porch by myself for 2 hours. Just thinking. And none of the thoughts made me feel any better. Because no matter how many times I told myself it wasn't her fault, that voice inside me whispered something different. And that's what scared me most. Weeks passed. Slowly, things started to look normal again on the outside. Maddie got out of bed on her own. She started showering regularly, scrolling her phone, even replying to friends here and there. Her mom came by less. The light stayed on longer in the apartment. The silence wasn't as heavy. But inside, everything was still off. She didn't talk about what happened. Not directly. She acted like if she ignored it long enough, it would disappear. And maybe that worked for her. Maybe that's how she coped. But for me, it didn't disappear. It just grew into something worse. I didn't tell her I'd started seeing a therapist. I didn't want to add more weight to her shoulders. I just went once a week and tried to unpack what the hell was happening in my head. The sessions helped. Sort of. The therapist asked good questions, but no answers made it easier to live in the same space as someone I no longer felt connected to. Then came that night. She was smiling more lately, laughing at things again. And that night, it was the first time she poured 2 glasses of wine and lit a candle during dinner. Just the two of us. Takeout on the table. Music playing low. For a moment, it felt like before. After dinner, she got up and went to the bedroom. I stayed back to clean up the plates. A few minutes later, she called my name softly. I walked in. She was sitting on the bed, wearing that old hoodie I loved on her. Hair down, legs tucked under her. She looked peaceful, calm, comfortable. She smiled and said, I miss you. I sat beside her. I'm here. You know what I mean. Her fingers brushed against my arm. Slow, soft. She leaned closer, kissed my jaw. I froze. Her hand slid down to mine. I didn't move. She looked at me, eyes searching, almost pleading, and leaned in again, this time to kiss me. But I turned my head. She pulled back. What's wrong? I couldn't lie. I couldn't play it off like I was tired or not in the mood. I don't know, I said. Something just feels off. Her whole expression dropped. You don't want me anymore. No, it's not that. Then what is it? I didn't answer. Because the truth was worse than any excuse. I didn't feel the same way. My body didn't react the same. Every time she touched me, something inside me clenched up. Not in fear, in rejection. And that destroyed me. Because she hadn't done anything wrong. She leaned away from me slowly. You're disgusted by me. No, don't say that. But it's true, isn't it? She said, eyes already watering. You can't even look at me like you used to. I'm trying, I said. I swear I'm trying. She looked at the floor. Her voice cracked. You think I wanted this to happen? Of course not. Then why does it feel like I'm being punished for something I didn't choose? I didn't have an answer. She curled into herself and started crying quietly. I sat there, feeling like the worst human being alive. That night, I slept on the couch. Not because she told me to, but because I couldn't be near her without feeling broken. The next morning, she was gone when I woke up. No note, no message. Her mom texted me around noon. She's with me. She needs space. And I didn't argue. Because for the first time since it all began, I wondered if I was the one doing the damage now. The day Maddie left, I still thought I had time. I figured she just needed a few days at her mom's. That she'd cool off, I'd work on myself, and we'd meet somewhere in the middle again. That's what couples do, right? They struggle, they fight, but they come back. I kept going to therapy. I told my therapist everything. About the disconnect, the guilt, the way my brain had rewired itself to see Maddie differently after what happened. How I wanted so badly to fix it, but nothing inside me would switch back. He didn't judge, just asked, do you think your anger is at her? Or at the fact that you couldn't protect her? I didn't answer, because the truth was, I didn't know. All I knew was that I couldn't feel attracted to her anymore. And not in some shallow way. It was physical, mental, total. When she tried to be close to me, my body tensed like a defense mechanism I couldn't control. And it made me feel like garbage. I left every session feeling more aware, but not more healed. Maddie stayed away. No texts, no calls, just silence. Then, about a week later, her parents showed up at my door. No knock, no warning. Just standing there like they'd been waiting to explode. Her mom looked tired. Her dad looked furious. We need to talk, her dad said, pushing past me. They sat at my kitchen table while I just stood there, heart pounding. Her mom started. Maddie isn't eating. She isn't sleeping. She's barely speaking. I started, but she cut me off. She told us everything, she said. How you pulled away. How you made her feel like she was dirty. Like she was the reason you couldn't touch her. I never said that. I said quickly. You didn't have to, her dad snapped. Your silence said it for you. I stood there, stuck between guilt and anger. She's hurting, her mom continued, voice cracking. And she thinks it's her fault you don't love her anymore. I do love her, I said. But something broke in me and I can't fix it. I'm trying. I swear. She needs you to show up, her dad said, standing now. Not hide behind therapy and excuses. And then her mom said something that shut me down completely. If you don't try harder, you might lose her forever. She's not in a good place, Nate. And this could spiral fast. I didn't ask what she meant. I didn't want to hear the word they were dancing around. After they left, I sat on the couch and stared at the wall for hours. I felt like the bad guy. And maybe I was. Because no matter how many times I told myself she didn't deserve this, I couldn't unfeel what I felt. I couldn't just flip the switch and hold her the way I used to. I blamed her, and I hated myself for it. Later that night, I got a text from Maddie. Just one sentence. I can't do this anymore. Then goodbye. I called. No answer. Texted. No reply. I drove to her mom's. She was gone. She'd left a note behind, saying she needed space. Real space. Not a few days. Not a cool down. She was done waiting for me to come back to her emotionally. She said it hurt more to be close to me and feel rejected than to be alone. That's when it finally sank in. She wasn't coming back. It was 3 days after Maddie left when they showed up again. Her parents. This time they weren't just upset. They were scared. I opened the door and instantly knew something was wrong. Her mom's hands were shaking. Her dad looked like he hadn't slept in a week. We need to talk, her mom said quietly. I stepped aside. We sat at the table. Same spot. Different energy. He didn't yell. She didn't cry. It was worse than that. It was calm. Serious. Final. She's not okay, her dad said. I nodded. I figured. No, her mom added. You don't get it. She's not eating. She's not talking. She doesn't leave her room. She's lost so much weight, her dad said. She doesn't even look like herself anymore. I didn't know what to say. Her mom looked me dead in the eyes. She's talking like she's given up. Silence. I felt my stomach drop. What do you mean? She said she wishes it never happened. That she wishes she didn't have to wake up anymore. That she ruined everything. That it's all her fault. I leaned back, staring at the floor. She's not sleeping, her mom continued. Not functioning. And all she talks about is you. She blames herself, her dad said, his voice tighter now. She thinks she broke you. And if you don't talk to her, if you don't do something. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I sat there, frozen, because deep down, I knew they were right. She was blaming herself, and I'd let her. I'd let her carry all of it, while I hid behind therapy sessions and quiet guilt. I kept my distance, gave her cold stares, flinched at her touch, and never once told her I still cared. Still loved her, because even if my feelings were twisted up inside, I never stopped loving her. But love isn't always enough, especially when it stays silent. Her dad looked at me one more time before standing up. You don't get to shut down and leave her hanging, he said. She didn't ask for what happened, but she's still paying for it. Every day. Alone. They left. I sat there for hours. I didn't eat. Didn't move. Just thought. About every time she cried, I didn't hold her. Every time she reached out and I looked away. Every time she whispered, I miss you. And I stayed silent. And the worst part, I still felt that wall inside me. That resistance. That flicker of blame I couldn't fully erase. I hated myself for it. Because I knew she didn't deserve this. But I also knew she'd warn me too. In her own way. About needing space. About not knowing how to feel safe again. About needing me to be there. Even if I didn't have the perfect words. And I failed. Now I was the one who broke her. Not the guy on the street. Me. So that night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to sit in silence anymore. Not if there was still a chance to make things right. I stood outside her house for 15 minutes with a bouquet in one hand and my pride shattered in the other. I didn't rehearse what I was going to say. I knew no apology would be perfect. I just knew I had to say something. Anything, before it was too late. Her mom opened the door. She didn't smile. Just nodded and stepped aside. She's in her room, she said. She hasn't gotten out of bed all day. I walked down the hallway like it was my first time there. Everything felt unfamiliar, even though I'd been through that door 100 times before. I knocked. Lightly. No answer. Mads, I said. It's me. Still nothing. I opened the door slowly. She was lying on her side, facing the wall, blankets pulled up. Small. Still. I brought you flowers, I said, stepping in. They're not amazing, but they're real. She didn't move. I sat down in the chair beside the bed. My voice cracked before I even started. I don't know how to do this, I said, but I'm going to try. No reaction. So I kept talking. You didn't ruin me, Maddie. I ruined myself. I let something dark get in my head and twist how I saw you. I let fear and guilt and shame turn into distance. And I never told you how much I hated myself for it. Still silent. But I saw her shoulders tense slightly under the blanket. I should have been there for you. Not just physically. I mean really there. I should have fought through it instead of freezing. But I didn't. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Then her voice came out. Soft. Cracked. You stopped looking at me like I mattered. That sentence punched a hole in my chest. I know. I whispered. I hate that I did. And I don't expect you to forget it. Or forgive it. But I'm here. And I want to do better. She turned slowly. Her face was pale. Eyes swollen. But she looked at me. For the first time in weeks. Do you still love me? She asked. With everything I've got. But you couldn't touch me. I was scared, I said. Not of you. Of me. Of how I was failing. Of hurting you even more by pretending to be okay. She sat up. Pulled the blanket tighter. I thought you blamed me. I did, I admitted. In the worst, most selfish part of my brain, I did. Even though I knew you didn't deserve it. And I hated myself every day for letting that thought live inside me. We sat in silence. Then she said something I didn't expect. I still love you, Nate. I almost cried right there. I want to try again, she said. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. No more silence. If you're struggling, tell me. If something's wrong, don't shut me out. I'd rather hear the ugly truth than feel invisible. I nodded. You won't be invisible ever again. She reached for my hand. This time, I didn't flinch. We sat like that for a long time. No kissing. No hugging. Just holding hands, like two people learning how to be human together again. And about him, the guy who hurt her, the cops finally found him. Security footage matched. Witnesses came forward. It turned out he'd done it before in another city. He was arrested a week after Maddie left me. He's behind bars now, and probably will be for a long time. But that didn't fix what happened. Nothing could. All we could do was survive it. Together, it's been almost a year since everything happened. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago. Other times, like it just happened last week. The nightmares, the arguments, the silence. It's all part of our story now. But we're still here. Together. Maddie moved back in a few months after our conversation. We didn't jump straight into anything physical. No forced affection. No pretending things were perfect. Just slow steps. Rebuilding trust. Relearning each other. At first, we slept in the same bed, but with space between us. Some nights we'd hold hands. Other nights we'd just lay quietly, listening to the same breathing pattern we used to take for granted. It wasn't romantic. It was survival. But eventually, something shifted. One morning I woke up and she was tucked into my chest, arm over my waist. No hesitation. Just natural. That was the moment I knew we had a real shot at moving forward. She went back to work. Started seeing a trauma counselor regularly. She joined a support group. Some weeks were harder than others, but she stuck with it. I kept going to therapy too, even after I started feeling better, because I didn't want to fall into that silence again. Not ever. Our conversations got deeper, less surface level. We talked about what happened, not every day, not obsessively, but openly. If either of us had a bad night, we said it. No hiding. And when she finally smiled without faking it, I knew we were healing. But the truth? Some things didn't go back to how they were. And that's okay. There are still moments where I catch a flicker of sadness in her eyes when certain topics come up, or when I see a news headline that hits too close, or when someone says something dumb about what women shouldn't wear. But I don't ignore it. I ask her if she's okay, and she always answers. There are moments, too, where I still feel that old weight. That voice that once whispered blame and shame. It's quieter now, but not gone. I know it might never fully disappear. I told her that. She said, "That's not weakness, Nate. That's honesty. That's the thing about real healing. It doesn't erase what happened. It teaches you how to live with it. Together. And now we're building something new." Last weekend, we went to the beach for the first time in over a year. She wore a simple dress. No heels. No makeup. Just her. Real. Confident. Alive. And I couldn't stop looking at her. Not because of how she looked, but because I saw all she'd survived. Everything she endured. And how, somehow, she still had love left to give. That night, after dinner, I took her hand and led her to the boardwalk. The sun was setting, and for once, I didn't feel the weight of our past hanging over us. I got down on one knee. Her eyes went wide. "I'm not asking because things are perfect," I said. "I'm asking because I want to spend the rest of my life working through the imperfect stuff with you. If you'll let me." She didn't say anything for a few seconds. Just stared. Then tears. But this time the good kind. She nodded. "Yes. Absolutely yes." And that was it. We're getting married next spring. Not a fairy tale. Not a happily ever after. But something better. Real. There's still quiet days. And hard ones. But we face them together. We don't run from the past. And we don't let it define us. We just live. And yeah, sometimes when I'm lying next to her at night, a flash of that night comes back. The fear. The guilt. The pain. But then I look at her. And I see strength. And I remind myself, we're not broken anymore. We're building.